Ciao e benvenuto a tutti. Welcome to another Jake Bakes, everybody. Today we are going to be doing an Italian staple, ciabatta bread. You can find this at most panini places. It's what a lot of paninis are made on. It's delicious, airy, bubbly bread, and it's amazing. And I know you can do this. It's super simple and super fun. So let's get in the kitchen and let's get started. Now we need to grab a few ingredients to get this bread going. We need, of course, flour, bread, strong white flour. I have about 3.5 cups in here. I have a 1/2 cup of coarse ground flour for corn flour. You can get this in different type of like really coarse or really fine. I like the coarse because it adds a little bit of texture and just enough flavor into the bread. I have 10 to 15 grams of yeast, depending on how quickly you need your bread to rise. You want to use more yeast, so up to 15, and down to 10 if you want that slower rise. I'm going to use a hefty pinch of salt, as always, bread is better salted. A 1/4 cup of good olive oil. I like really fruity olive oil. And then I have 500 grams or 500 milliliters of water measured out. I may not use all of that. I may only use 400 depending on the consistency of the dough and the the humidity of the actual flour itself. If it's drier, I might need a little bit more. If it's pretty still moist in there, then we won't use as much. So let's get mixing. Flour goes in, and then I'm gonna add the corn flour in. I love it, it's so pretty, it's so yellow. Yeast goes to one side as always. And a heavy good pinch of salt on the other. Salt brings out that natural flavor of bread that you can't beat, so I do want to add that in. And while this is, before the water goes in, I want to put on my bread hook. There we go. And I'm going to add in almost all of this water. So I'm going to add about 3/4 of this to start with. A little bit more. Perfect. We're going to start mixing this on low, and as it gets to mixing, I'm going to stream in about a 1/4 cup of this olive oil. This is going to be a very wet dough. That's what gives you that bubblicious ciabatta. The stiffer the dough, the less room it has to grow in that regard. So this I really recommend using a stand mixer for, or a good bowl and a good like wooden spoon that's going to have a lot of strength to it. So now that we've got it going, add a little bit more water in, and the olive oil. Perfect. The olive oil is going to give us a really moist crumb that's absolutely delicious. It's so good. I'm actually going to stream in the rest of this water. All right, and we're going to let this mix for probably about 5 to 10 minutes. It's a long mixing process, only because we need these gluten structures to be really, really well developed. We want it to be sticky, we want it to be very, very stretchy, because we want those bubbles to grow. So think how thin like bubble soap is, like when you go blow bubbles outside, you need that to be liquidy, and so all of that air can be trapped inside. Okay, that looks great. It's a really sticky dough. So I'm just going to take this dough hook off and place it in the bowl itself. Pull this off. And look at that. She is quite sticky. Now, for this, I'm going to go ahead and pull this. You'll see it's not easy to handle. It's not something that you really want to do too much of. Because it's just so difficult. But it's that smooth texture, and you can see all those delicious little bits of corn fleck in there, which I love. Like I said, it's going to give a great texture in there. Now with ciabatta, because it is such a wet dough, it has a hard time holding its shape and structure as it's proving and then shaped. So to help that, a lot of places that I've watched and sort of learned from recommended finding like a square tub to prove them in. Well, that's not something that I usually have like a huge square tub of, but I have a 9x13 cake pan usually. This, or the casserole pan, is perfect because we want to get 2 loaves out of this, and we want it to stretch out and to lie flat and prove in the shape that we want it in our final form. So for this, I just oiled this with a little bit of olive oil I put into a mister because we want this to not stick when it comes out. And I'm going to stretch this out just a little bit. Then we're going to lay this in here. Sort of press that in so that it gets all over, and we'll be able to prove more kind of like consistently all around. This will fill out the entire casserole dish. I'm going to put some cling wrap on it, or cling film. Let this prove in a warm area for about an hour to 2 hours. It's okay if it gets about 2.5 times its size. Like, that's awesome. You're going to see lots of bubbles. That's what we want to keep. So just keep your patience. It's going to take a little bit. But once this is risen, we don't need to do another rise. It's just a single rise. And we will cut this and get it in the oven. So let's get this proved. This looks amazing. It is puffed up, and it's about the size of this whole casserole. So all we have to do is actually uncover it, and then we're going to turn it out and then bake it. That's my favorite thing is about ciabatta, is that it doesn't take a whole lot of time because it has that one rise, because we want to keep it, all the air in it as much as possible. So you don't want to manhandle this. You want to just flip it out and get it turned off. So what I'm going to do is flour my board, because we need this. This is really wet dough. So we want to get a good hefty amount of flour on this board because we don't want it to stick. And because it is such a wet dough, it's okay to have a little bit more flour than normal, because this has already risen and gotten all the bubbles we need. And what I'm going to do, just to reinforce that delicious cornmeal, add a little bit more down here. This will help get a little bit of a nicer crust on the bottom too. You can use semolina. I do that a lot too, but I thought it'd be nice to sort of change it up a little bit, add a little bit of a different texture, a harsher texture, which is that cornmeal. It's a little bit more firm. So now we're going to flip this out on the board. You can see all of look at all those bubbles in there. You can see all of them. They look really great. You just pull this out and it'll flop out. There we go. You can see this is because it is such a wet dough, you get so much more bubbly. You get so much more deliciousness in there. So we don't want to actually mess with this too much. We want to leave this exactly the way it is. I'm going to flour the top of this again because this is basically going to be ready to bake. I'm going to pat this down a little bit. Just get it all even. And like what I like to do is grab a pan with some parchment paper on it. I'm going to cut this directly in half and then move it directly onto that. So cut this down the middle. Oh man, looks so good. Let's separate this out just a little bit so that I can move it. Great. So now, ciabatta is generally a rounded or it's kind of squared off loaf. It actually is Italian for slipper because the maker of this, the creator of this, thought that it reminded him of slippers. So there you have it. These are nice because you don't need to shape them either. So those look great. Now I just need to do the hard part, which is moving this onto this without losing all the air. But with all of that flour and cornmeal down, shouldn't be too bad. Just like that. I like to just make sure everything's good, so I push this up a little bit. Get this in there. That looks fabulous. I cannot wait to get this in the oven and get this baked. I'm going to pop this one onto another pan and get these in the oven at 425 for about a half hour. They're going to look a little paler because there is more flour on them than usual, but as soon as they start to turn golden brown and crusty, they'll be perfect to come out. These look fantastic. They are crispy, crunchy deliciousness. Just came out of the oven and they smell amazing. I cannot wait to get in here and try some. Oh God, yum. Oof, and look at that little flecks of all of that delicious cornmeal in there. Let me cut this in half. You see little bubbles around the edges. Oh, this is delicious. I can't wait to get this in here. Try some. Got some herbed olive oil here. Oh, that is perfect with that. Oh my gosh. The bread is springy, but it's so airy and fluffy. Oh man, that corn adds just enough crunch. It's absolutely delicious. I'm having some friends join me later over tonight. We're gonna make some grilled, delicious sandwiches, and we're gonna use this bread. I'm gonna throw it on the grill, get it nice and toasty, and we're gonna have a deliciously fun time. Our sandwiches are done. I've grilled this. This looks absolutely delicious. Pesto, grilled chicken, some broccolini with lemon. This is gonna be fabulous. I can't wait to get it to my friends and munch on this. But guys, it's been great baking with you again. I'll see you here next time on Jake Bakes. Here we go.
Food.
Food, how about this? Look at that.
Sir.
Big one for you, you're a little guy.
I have a big heart.
Oh, this looks so good.
The chef.
Cheers, guys. Actually, that's really good.
Yeah.